This video is hard not only because Shinjuku's scaling requires mental illness to navigate, but because Kashimo has a one-off curse technique that he only used against the strongest person in the series, and then died. But what would happen if the two fought? What if Yuji defeats Sukuna and Kashimo somehow lives and wants to face Yuji instead? Let's get into it. As I said earlier, scaling Kashimo can be quite difficult, but he effortlessly destroyed Panda, and we've seen him fight a full power Hikari and almost win without even using his own curse technique, which is quite impressive. His cursed energy trait, Electricity, can bypass a normal defense and be manipulated to activate a nearly guaranteed hit, which we've seen blow a hole in Hikari and knock an arm off. Later in the series, we see Kashimo fight a Sukuna fresh off of killing Gojo, and then Kashimo uses his CT. I would say in this instance he's faster than a severely physically weakened Sukuna, but he then gets pummeled by Sukuna's physically healed true form. The specifics of Kashimo's curse technique is that he converts flesh into electricity-related phenomena. Kashimo gets enhanced reaction speeds from faster brain waves, the ability to shoot waves that travel at near light speeds. After some time, Kashimo will die from using the technique, however, Sukuna kills him before we see this. Kashimo will also develop a form of X-ray vision during the technique release, and will most likely be able to size up Yuji's physical strength from that, as he did with Sukuna. If you analyze Kashimo's fight, you can see he has a very high battle IQ and a hilariously large ego. Being the strongest from his time, he knows exploits people can use against him, such as being dropped into the water with a domain. And he also knows a lot about how RCT works, as shown in this panel here when he's analyzing how to kill Hikari in his unkillable phase. And he also knows how cursed energy traits work, as shown in this panel here, where he explains how his interacts with Hikari's. Kashimo's win con for me personally in this fight would have to be his guaranteed hit with the staff he carries that he has to build up over time. However, if Hikari was able to point blank dodge it and have it hit his arm instead of his head, then I do believe Yuji, who is most likely faster in Shinjuku after the time skip, and one who is swapping blows with Sukuna. This Sukuna also completely blitzed Kashimo. I do believe he'd then be able to dodge a guaranteed hit, or at the very least, for all the Kashimo Glazers, at the very least, have it hit a limb that Yuji can reattach with his blood manipulation. For our main character, he has plenty to go off of, but I'm going to be focusing on the end of the series because Kashimo legitimately low diffs the rest. In this fight with Sukuna, we see a new Yuji, one who has significantly developed his barrier techniques and defenses. However, I often see people say this is the only aspect Yuji improved, because that is all Sukuna mentions. However, I really disagree with that. Yuji is constantly being underestimated time and time again in this fight by Sukuna. You could argue just because Sukuna hates him, or maybe Sukuna is too blinded by hate to see Yuji's true improvements. I think saying Yuji improved in nothing else is bad faith, because why would he train for a month only to improve one thing? Or two things, including the barrier. Awakened by the sparks of black, this Yuji is single-handedly the best sorcerer to face any reincarnated players besides Angel. His punches will weaken the enemy's hold on the user and deplete their curse energy control. This Yuji also has two curse techniques: blood manipulation from eating the curse wounds, which gives him RCT and the ability to explode said blood. And he also has a new form of Shrine, in which he has the same moves, but it looks more modern, I guess. Yuji can also use these slashes to hit the barrier of the enemy's soul, which will once again weaken the curse energy control. This form of Yuji also has incredible hand-to-hand feats, going toe-to-toe with a weakened two-arm Sukuna, and then a full physically healed one at the end of the series. However, the Sukuna's soul is still very damaged, so keep that in mind. We can also see Yuji straight up tank a Sukuna Black Flash in this panel here, along with healing a large portion of his body from being cleaved multiple times. These cleaves are also not full power, but Shinjuku scaling. Yuji can also hit a record of Black Flashes on a whim, Like you just make him a little angry, boom, he'll drop 10 right on you. His ultimate move when back into a corner will be his unnamed domain expansion, in which he can make the sure hit a soul slash, even further weakening the enemy. I do believe Yuji's win con is getting off his guaranteed hit in his domain. He would do this by whittling down Kashimo with a flurry of punches and weakening him to the point where he easily breaks Wicker Basket and then gets the guaranteed hit off. Sukuna, a much stronger opponent, was weakened severely by just a few punches. If you don't believe that, then Shinjuku scaling makes zero sense. Sukuna also technically had 20 cursed objects to vomit. You can argue he only has one because you can see him only put one in Megumi. However, we can see him vomit multiple fingers in these panels here, leading me to believe Sukuna has 20 fingers he can vomit. Kashimo does not have this luxury. He has one cursed object, as far as we know, and his host was not submerged in the bath. So it would be far easier for Yuji to push Kashimo out of whatever body he is taking. Yuji also has Divergent Fist, a technique that confuses even the strongest sorcerer of all time. Combining this with his freakish natural strength, and you get a sorcerer with Sukuna's potential. Yuji could also have his gauntlets in this bout, but since we have no idea what they do besides the fact that they're from Yuta, I'm not going to use them as a good or a bad. Going more in depth with this natural strength, when Yuji had faced Higuruma, he lost all his cursed energy due to confiscation, and still impressed the guy with talent equal to Gojo. The fighters would begin their clash, and Kashimo would quickly realize that Yuji weakens him with every single hit. It's debatable as to what extent Kashimo would need to be pushed to use Amber, but since Sukuna is dead in this alternate reality, I'd believe he'd use it as soon as he's close to death. If you believe this puts him over Yuji, Yuji can just domain expansion and force Kashimo to vomit the cursed object. I say this because we have not seen any anti-domain tech from Kashimo, but if you do want to argue Kashimo has an anti-domain tech, then Yuji will attempt to beat the brakes off of Kashimo while Hollow Wicker Basket slowly breaks away. And slowly is generous. If you're wondering why I say this, it's because Sukuna uses another form of Wicker Basket. He does this by keeping his extra hands together, which is almost a binding vow, enhancing the anti-domain tech, far beyond anything anyone else can do. Therefore, Kashimo's hypothetical Wicker Basket, which we don't even know if he can use, would be far weaker and would break way sooner. Yuji using his impressive hand-to-hand skills means he then forces Kashimo to probably vomit the object, therefore lose. The only thing I could see arguing for Kashimo to win this is EM waves, but I don't think there'll be a problem for Yuji. I don't think he's light speed, but because he's at the very least relative to a Sukuna that is stronger than the one who dodged it point blank, which he aim dodged it. Not saying Sukuna's light speed, not saying that. I see no reason why a full power post 8 Black Flash Yuji can't also aim dodge this as well. That's going to be all. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I have always liked Kashimo. He hasn't had enough to convince me that he wins this. I am glad Gege respected Yuji enough to get him high up in the verse. He's been kind of fodder for most of the series. If you disagree with the outcome, feel free to let me know in the comments, and have a good one.